Welcome to Actions and Limits. My name is Justin Atherton. I'm the Peak Performance Consultant for Confidence Unchained. With me as always is Paul Fortune. Paul is a mindset coach and the founder of A Call to Action. And together, we make Actions and Limits. Welcome to the show, the podcast where we talk about the actions we can take and the limits we create. Another great week, Paul. I know we got a great guest coming up. Jake Steiner is going to be on the show with us. So everyone make sure you subscribe to the podcast, either on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform, so you don't miss a single interview that we have coming up. Make sure also to check us out on Facebook and Instagram to stay updated on all our upcoming content. And you can also check me and Paul out on LinkedIn as well. Paul, I know we were checking out Jake's content, and he's, an expert in, eyesight. What was your thought on the content you saw of his, man?
Very informative, and I'm very intrigued that eyesight can improve, and to the point where you don't have to wear glasses. How's your vision right now, Justin?
I've noticed a decline over the last year or so, and it's starting to worry me. So I'm excited to pick his brain. And I noticed my night vision hasn't been as good. If I'm driving around, I'm like, is that a mailbox? Is that a person? So I've always prided myself on having excellent eyesight, and I'm feeling a little bit of eye strain right now because I've been in front of a screen all day long. So I'm excited to hear what he has to say. If I can not wear glasses in my life, like that'll be success. So I'm excited to have him on the show, man.
Let's bring him out there.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and bring out Jake, because I'm excited to pick his brain. So Jake says, parents need to know about the massive eyesight risk for their children. iPads as babysitters and homework on screens creating quite high risk with some special precautions, and going to the optometrist without knowing key facts will have disastrous long-term consequences to kids' eyesight. Jake from Endmyopia is the foremost global expert on myopia control. With 20 years in scientific research and therapy, he shows how most child eyesight issues can be prevented. And Jake's been interviewed by some of the most influential health podcasters, including Dr. Sean Baker, and he was also on Joe Rogan. So let's go ahead and bring out Jake Steiner. All right, everyone, welcome Jake Steiner to the show. Jake, really glad to have you on the show, man. We're looking forward to picking your brain a little bit, bud.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you guys.
I know Paul and I were checking out your content, and it seems like you're really laser focused on what you do. And so describe to our audience for us, like, how you got into this vein. So how'd you get here, man? How'd you get here, Jake?
So I deal with eyesight, and I mainly deal with eyesight performance, and I've been doing this for the last 20 years. It was always a hobby. I'm used to be an investor and a stock trader. I used to have really bad eyesight, so I was wearing super thick glasses, and I come from a research background, and I deal with a lot of people telling me things that sometimes aren't entirely true for financial reasons. So I'm used to this sense of looking at people from a perspective of, what are you telling me? And I would go to the optometrist and I asked them, why do I need even stronger glasses? And they would tell me, oh, it's probably genetic. And it just, from where I come from, that just set off red flags. And it was the first time, because I just grew up with glasses. I was a teenager, I never questioned it. Sure. I finally ended up in my 20s on a point where, people wear really thick glasses, their eyes are really small behind them, right? Like I was at that point. And then, it's just, you have these little piggy eyes. And for everyone listening with those glasses, so I ended up doing a lot of research, and this was before the internet was this well evolved and easy to do. So I spent a lot of time in libraries. I was traveling a lot, so I talked to a lot of specialists in different countries, and I eventually figured out what causes bad eyesight, and it's not genetic as people claim. And then eventually I managed to recover my eyesight, and since then I've helped a lot of other people do the same.
So do you wear glasses at all? Any contacts, anything?
Nothing.
So you completely recovered your eyes to where you don't have to wear glasses anymore.
100%.
That's pretty amazing, Jake. Like I'm curious to hear like what do I need to do to prevent it? Like I feel like I have pretty good eyesight, but can I get better? Can I get better than 20/20 vision? Like, or is what are the limits of that?
It depends on the individual, but there's not everybody can have crazy good vision, but I've worked with fighter pilots and I've worked with athletes and I've worked with people who have had very good eyesight, and we've taken it even further. Like you can get to 20/10, you can get to 28. Some people get 25 vision. There's like sheep herders in some really remote areas that I found that can see tiny things miles away. Like literally where I will have binoculars and they can see the same thing that I can see with binoculars. So depending on what you most use your vision for and your health and well-being and biology, human distance vision can be pretty amazing.
Do you have optometrists on the payroll now? Are they buying into what you're talking about?
There are a lot of optometrists who are supportive of this fairly quietly, because it's their main job. The way they make money, the business model is selling glasses, right?
Sure.
And they answer to optometry boards, and depending on the country, and for example, in Hong Kong, a good friend of mine, optometrist, is in Hong Kong. He started talking about this. He's like, I can help you guys improve your eyesight. He got a lot of business, and because improving eyesight means buying more glasses, because you keep reducing the strength of your glasses, he got a lot more business than a lot of his peers who got jealous. They reported him to the board. The board looked into what he was doing, and they said, this is not on the script. And they said, we're going to permanently revoke your license if you ever talk about this again. Like he got really close. And the only way he got to keep his license is to never advertise or promote or talk about this. So if you go to him and you say, hey, wink, nudge, can I get some weaker glasses? He'll do that, right? But he's not talking about it. He's not promoting it. And depending on what country you're in and depending where you're at, you have to be fairly careful with what you say.
Tell me about the script. Tell me, you said that you go off the script. Like what is the script?
The script is that eyesight is a genetic thing and that it can never improve and you just need glasses forever. Which is funny because now that they know this, right? Because all the things I talk about or most of the science I talk about comes from optometry and ophthalmology journals. The publications that those guys read that have peer-reviewed clinical science that explains how myopia happens. So they know. And the ones who don't know are just willfully ignorant. But there was nothing to sell, right? So now there's a thing, for example, called MySight contact lenses that do the same thing we do, right? Like we work with focal planes, and I'll explain all that in more detail. But basically, they figured out a way to make this more complicated and patented, right? Which my approach doesn't require patent, doesn't require anything other than buying lower diopter glasses. But they found a complicated way to do it, and now all of a sudden they know. Right? The script has changed. Like the guy who sells you those contact lenses now doesn't say this stuff anymore. It's genetic and nothing can be done. Now that they have a thing that costs a lot of money, now they're like, well, maybe if you wear these contact lenses.
It's almost along
they had a breakthrough.
Like the pharmaceutical companies. You can compare it to pharmaceutical companies that don't like natural remedies. It's like, no, you need a medicine that you need to buy. You know, there's not a natural remedy for this or not something that you can grow that's going to make you better. It's kind of sounds like it's along the same lines. You start messing with the money and then they want to revoke your license. And so that's a tough thing to know is out there, and that they're hiding the truth from, you know, I'm really curious, Jake, how this is, you know, going to pan out and what you're going to tell me about the different exercise. Like, I'm really excited to hear about it, because I think I've seen what you're talking about with the contacts that shape your eyes at night that kind of help with your vision. Is that what you're talking about?
That's ortho-K. That's another one. They flatten the cornea, they flatten the lens in the front of your eye temporarily, which is a kind of a bad idea.
Sure.
That lens, the cornea in front of your eye is responsible for about 70% of your total refraction. So by flattening that out, it changes your refraction, makes your vision temporarily better. But then that lens just straightens itself out over the course of the day again. So your vision is back to where it was. It's a really crude method.
Okay.
It costs like $2,000 a year. Also, the side effect risks are pretty high. That was kind of an early effort, right?
Okay.
And that's when they were like, well, maybe we can slow it down. But these new contact lenses, they have like rings of focal plane changes built into them. So that slows down the progression. Like you're still going to get worse eyesight even with those things, but less quickly.
Okay.
Right? So
I saw one of your videos, and it was quite humorous, because I know that your steps are pretty complex, and you have people that come to you and go, "Tell me the steps, tell me the steps," and and you're like, "Well, it's not just that simple. There's things that you need to do, and you look at before you can just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5." So, can you explain to our viewers, kind of the back end of this, because it's not just, okay, I do these 3 steps and I can see better.
Well, so the thing is, this is kind of a DIY biohacking thing, right?
Okay.
Where I don't want to be responsible for your outcome. And there are too many details, like depending on your lifestyle, depending on how much time you spend in front of your phone, depending on your diet, depending on so many factors, the steps would always be different. Right? So I don't want to be the guy who's saying, okay, here's the 10 things, you do this and your eyesight improves, because I'm never going to know exactly what you're up to. So this is more of I can explain to you how the biology works, and I can explain to you how optics work, and I can explain to you how stimulus works, and then you can put it together yourself. And improving eyesight is not really that complicated, but I don't want to be responsible. The easier I make it, like the more I make it, here's the steps, the more I assume responsibility. And when things go wrong, I'm the bad guy. So I don't want to be that guy.
It sounds a little bit
I'm
like selling a coaching program and going, no, what exactly am I going to get out of this coaching program? And it's like, well, what do you put into it? Like, so it's along the same lines. Are they putting in the work? Like you said, are they doing the exercises? What negative effects are they doing? So it's a similar idea there, but people want that, easy, quick fix, right?
They do want the easy, quick fix. And that's why selling glasses is $100 billion a year industry, $100 billion a year. So it's not just optometrists misleading people, whatever. It's supply and demand. People want a quick fix. And the people that come to me looking for a different quick fix, I'm like, I am not that guy, right? Like this is a project. You've got to want it. You've got to do your own research.
Sure.
Again, like I don't want to be saying, okay, here's the 10 steps and then the fallout of all the, especially the people that are just lazy and then they complain online, and you know how that goes.
Yeah.
And there's 10,000 comments on the internet about Jake is bullshit.
Tell me about the diet. Is there a certain fruit? I always hear carrots. My mom might have told me that eat carrots and you have better vision. But is there like a meal plan that people need to follow?
I don't, since I'm not knowledgeable enough about that area. I don't make specific recommendations. The problem is the negative side of it is like when you get insulin spikes, that tends to negatively affect your eyesight. So people who eat 2 pizzas and have a big Coke and then watch 4 hours of Netflix, and then the next day they can't see anything. That's you're going to always have a problem if your diet is bad.
Sure.
I say carrots also, vitamin A, but then there's people that are really into food and how all these things interact, who are saying, well, you got to combine it with this, and instead you could be eating fish or other things. I throw up my hands and I go, okay, so you have to have enough vitamin A, right? You probably want to do blood panel, make sure that you don't have any vitamin deficiencies. If you're good on a blood panel, then your eyesight is probably going to be fine also, right? Like if you're diabetic, for example, most or a lot of diabetics have vision problems that are the same, like myopia, so there's impacts of how, as far as food affecting your eyesight, especially on the negative side, right? Like,
So
pizza.
I'm curious. So what are the steps? What are the first few steps that you go into, at least working through that process, or what are things that we need to work on ourselves, to improve our eyesight?
I always say the first step is understanding the problem,
Okay.
right? Like it's how do you know if this random dude on the internet who makes terrible videos has a point? People always complain about that, but like understanding like what is the problem, right? Like when somebody gives you recommendations of how to fix a thing, I always ask first, okay, what are we fixing? Like what caused this? If they don't have a good answer to the cause, I'm already pretty dubious, because addressing causality, I always say, is what you want to have the solution to be. So the first step really is understanding why is my eyesight bad in the first place. And the short version of the story is it's not genetic. For 90 some percent of people, it's not genetic. There's a muscle, there's a circular muscle in your eye that shapes the lens in your eye for close-up and distance vision. And that muscle is relaxed in distance vision and it's tight in close-up vision. So when you're looking at something up close-up, that circular muscle tightens up, it shapes the lens, and it moves the light inside of your eye, so you've got good close-up vision. Super simple. And that, extending that to where you're spending hours and hours and hours and hours in close-up vision eventually spasms that muscle. And now you're kind of stuck in close-up vision. You've been staring at your iPad watching Netflix for 5 hours, and now you're looking up and things are a bit blurry because that muscle just stay tight. And I always recommend people go to Google Scholar. It's the clinical science research search engine part of Google, scholar.google.com. If you type in pseudo myopia, meaning not actual myopia, you'll get tens of thousands of search results describing basically exactly this, that muscle just tightens up. Also called near-induced transient myopia. So when you first go to the optometrist the first time, and you just need like low strength glasses, and you ask the optometrist, why is my eyesight bad all of a sudden? It's that pseudomyopia. It's not genetic, right? Like it's a muscle spasm. So if you're, for example, this will give me the steps. If you just went to the optometrist for the first time and you could see fine till lately, your vision seems to be not that great, that's your problem.
Okay.
If you fix it with glasses, the problem's going to get worse because you're ignoring the problem.
Sure.
Fixing the problem means less of this close-up time.
So less screen time.
Less screen time. And I deal a lot with parents with kids who, a lot of, that they come to me, that find me just when they went to the optometrist for the first time. They say that, oh, my kids now need glasses. Just not buying those glasses and instead being really careful about the amount of screen time and the distance. Remember, the closer you are, the tighter that muscle is.
Sure.
Almost all of the time that resolves it. Like we have
How about a book? How about like reading a book? Is that the same thing?
Same exact thing. Same exact thing. That's why this has been a problem that's just increasing now, because we spend more time since we're addicted to screens and not just reading books. But that distance is a problem. But if the kid's reading a book for 3 hours and then goes outside and plays ball, eyes are fine, right? But kid reads book for 3 hours and then spends the next 3 hours playing a game on a phone, eyes are going to be not fun, right? Like you need enough time to relax that muscle.
I've noticed just something for myself, because my night vision has started to wane a little bit in the last several months. And one thing I've noticed is it actually feels good to like focus really far away, to kind of like almost like stretching that muscle out or changing how that muscle's working. And I'll just focus on something really far away, maybe come back and do that a few times. Is that something that helps with the vision, like making sure that you're just focusing on something, a distant object, or is that just kind of like a little quick fix to kind of stretch your eyes out a little bit?
100%, because your muscles relaxed in distance vision, right? So whenever you're looking at something at a distance, that muscle goes, nice. Like you have no pain feedback, right? There's nothing in that muscle that will let you know that it's strained, which really leads to a lot of the problem. But anytime you look at a distance, the muscles relax, you're good. If you have the right balance of that in your day, right? Like you work in front of a screen, fine, whatever. I mean, that's most of our lives. But before you work in front of that screen, you're driving to work, you're using distance vision. After you work on a screen, you have some kind of, you go to gym, you have some kind of sport hobby. Times that you're not spending on the screen when you don't have to makes a lot of the difference. Because I deal with a lot of people now who don't realize they've turned into total screen addicts, and breakfast they're on the phone, bathroom they're on the phone, bus they're on the phone, lunch break they're on the phone. You know what I mean? So it becomes like an uninterrupted, just all the time close up, and then you get that spasm, and then your eyesight appears to be worse, and then they sell you glasses.
So after work, put down your phone and go for a walk.
Yeah, ideally just after work, put away your phone and be done with that thing.
Yeah.
But that goes into a whole different topic of just, you know, we're just addicted to the phone.
Yeah, we had a guest on recently that talked about that exact topic, about, you know, addiction to social media and building that healthy relationship. So I think yours kind of goes along with that, like, because you have to have both. You have to be able to put away the screen, step away from your computer to be able to give your eyes that break, right?
Absolutely. And for example, I have a little podcast thing that I'm just calling a podcast, but it's basic conversation with guys who are improving the eyesight and have had success with it. And in the last couple episodes, there's two guys who are surfers.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as somebody says I surf, I'm already like, you're going to be a piece of cake, because you have a hobby that's another addiction. Like surfers are addicted to surfing. If they hear a wave, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that, like, going surfing sucks up a lot of distance vision time, getting there, getting ready, talking to friends, sitting out there waiting for waves, hours and hours and hours. You're nowhere near a phone. Those guys' vision always improves easy, easy, because they have all this time. But then on the other hand, when I was talking about Hong Kong, like Hong Kong, Singapore, when somebody from Hong Kong says, I want to fix my eyesight, I'm already shaking my head, because that city is so cramped, so tight. People live in tiny spaces. If you've ever been, you go on the subway, every person is on their phone at all times, like walking to it, from it, in it. So all your friends are addicted to the phone. Everybody at dinner is on their phone. You know what I mean? Like, it's a society that is entirely, like, if you're not on your phone, you're just kind of weird. Like, you stick out.
What's wrong with that guy? Why doesn't he have his phone out?
Yeah, those people don't do well, because it's like you'd have to get them past the screen addiction, and that, again, just like diet, isn't really my focus.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah, I know, Paul. I know you do this. You go take that break and you go for a walk somewhere. I've seen some of the pictures you post on Instagram, and I try to do the same thing as well. If I'm going somewhere to eat, I'll put that phone away and I'm just looking around. And because I notice, literally, Jake, right now, my eyes hurt. Like, I've been in front of my screen all dang day, and, you know, my eyes kind of hurt right now. So I'm looking forward to putting the screen away and, you know, just maybe relaxing my eyes for the rest of the night. So, but it has to be, you know, a lifestyle change, right?
Yeah, it does. I just watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix, where they were talking about the whole how these companies get us. It was shocking, because obviously we all know, like, we're all addicted to phones, but how purposely that's designed, built into the design of everything to make us addicted, and how we have no chance, because it's like the smartest guys in the world and the biggest computers in the world working on getting us to stare at the thing. It's just a mess, right? Like, so just not having the thing. I just spend a week of just not using my phone, right? I do everything on a laptop, and I feel it. Like, I feel like an addict, you know, like, just I'm getting cranky, I'm getting anxious, I'm bored, I'm irritable. That's not cool.
So what do you do? What do you do to prevent that for yourself? You're limiting your screen time and stuff, because I know how busy you are. I see your videos. You're constantly doing stuff. So
yeah, those take 5 minutes. They're terrible. They're terrible rambles. I find what I found works for me is, for one, until recently anyway, I travel a lot. Like, whenever possible, I just hop on a plane and I'm somewhere. I have the luxury of that freedom, and I find sports. I used to paraglide, that I really enjoyed. I've flew small aircraft for a while. Now I'm into kite surfing quite a bit. I copy the surfer idea of finding things that suck up a lot of time, that you just can't be near a phone.
Okay.
right? So in the winter, I spend usually 2-3 months in Vietnam kite surfing, and it's just, you're near the water,
That
you're
sounds
in the water,
amazing.
you're around the water. Yeah, and my eyesight is so much better after those 3 months than it is otherwise, because right, like it's just too easy to pick up the phone, and
Sure.
the moment you're on it for one thing, you're going to be stuck on it for a while.
Yeah. So are there certain exercises that we should be doing as well, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, so the first thing that happens is when you go to the optometrist for the first time and they sell you glasses, and they're just a small amount of correction for that stuck focusing muscle. If you were to always take those glasses off when you don't need them, your vision wouldn't really get worse, because
Okay.
your vision gets worse from something called hyperopic defocus. So your eyeball has a lens in the front and the retina is in the back. The retina is where the light focuses and sends a signal to your brain to interpret, right?
Okay.
So it's like a ball. Front does the focusing work, back has the sensor, basically. And the eyeball always adjusts in shape. Like, it's not perfectly round, and it has this mechanism built in to adjust itself to be the right length between the sensor and the lens. That's an ongoing system that works till the day you die.
Sure.
And it works by assessing whether the light is focusing correctly on the sensor, the retina, right? And it keeps adjusting the shape. Now, when you put a lens in front of it, it changes that whole equation, because the eye doesn't know that you just put a lens
Sure.
in front of the eye. And what happens is, when you wear those distance glasses in close-up, a thing called hyperopic defocus, where the light wants to focus behind the retina, behind that sensor. And so the eyeball elongates. It just adjusts itself, trying to compensate, because it's now going, well, the light's focusing too far back. Something isn't right here. And that's you wearing those first pair of glasses while you're reading a book. When you don't need those glasses, you just need them for distance. But when you wear them for close-up, it's basically over-focusing for the distance, right? Like it refocus fine when you're looking far away, but when you're now reading the book with these glasses, you're basically pushing your eye to elongate. So the first step would really be, never wear those glasses when you don't need them, meaning during close-up, right?
Got it.
Different story if you're already at -5, right? Like, you've gone back to the optometrist 5 more times. Every year they give you stronger glasses because the eye keeps elongating. Now, if you wear those -5, those strong glasses for your computer time, your eyes will continue to want to get worse. So the first step really is to go, I'm going to buy a pair of glasses that only give me clear vision to my computer screen, right? Like, that's step one. Because as long as you're not taking that step, you're pushing your eye to want to get longer, right? Like, for people whose eyesight is still getting worse, that is the way to stop that. If you want to stop your eyesight from getting worse, never, ever, ever, ever for a minute wear the distance glasses in close-up.
So is the idea also is it also
Yeah,
to ask your doctor to back it down a little bit, to go to a -4, like to go slowly in reverse? Like, how do you make that work?
They're not going to do it. That'll be the first step.
Well, they'll do it if I say I would take my money somewhere else, right?
Well, the funny thing is, by now, somehow this has gotten popular enough to where I get stories all the time of people having gone to the optometrist, who's, by the way, is a doctor, like a dentist is a doctor. Sure. So calling glasses prescriptions, yeah, people hate me for that. But a dentist is a doctor, right? Not an MD. An optometrist is not an MD either. I'm not knocking dentists.
You're
right?
Good, Jake.
Glasses are only called prescriptions, also, just for the sake of the story. Millions of dollars of lobbying by lens manufacturers have made glasses prescriptions. They're clear, curved pieces of plastic. If you think about what's a prescription about a piece of clear plastic, it's not. Those things cost $2 or $3 to the optometrist. The optometrist pays $2 or $3. I have the wholesale price sheets for every kind of lens. Over $5, you will hardly ever see anything. You pay hundreds of dollars potentially for these things. And there came a point where they were like, okay, how do we protect our margins, right? So we gotta to make sure the supply chain goes all the way to the customer, that we control this, we control the narrative. People don't end up buying glasses for $20, right? So they made it prescriptions, and you go to the doctor to get your prescriptions, and that's really the whole thing, to make you spend $200 on a thing that cost them $5. Just for a little background, because whenever somebody says doctor, I'm like, we're already heading in a bad direction, because doctor means illness, doctor means treatment, doctor means they went to school for many, many years. I would never understand this. Glasses are a super simple thing, right? Like, there's really not, you can spend a couple weeks understanding how what we're just talking about works exactly, and you can buy your own glasses. It's not complicated. But to your question, they're not going to do that because of a couple reasons. One is liability, right? Like, the glasses for your computer distance are not going to be strong enough for distance, and you forget to take those off, and you go drive your car and you get in an accident, and you say, I couldn't see because these glasses from my optometrist weren't strong enough. They don't want to end up in that position, with right? Insurance. Like, number one, like they can't do that. And number two is, there's a thing called seat time. So these guys are running a business selling lenses, and behind the scenes, they're literally going, how many minutes is this guy going to be in my office till I sell him glasses? Does that maintain my margin? Does that pay my bills? He doesn't have time to play around with your silly internet derived ideas of weaker glasses. So most of them are just going to be like, you talk to this Jake guy and he's full of shit.
I'm curious though, if say like a 9-year-old man comes to you and says, hey, I don't want to wear glasses anymore. And if they follow the formula to the T, diet and exercise, everything, even with that high of an age, do they have an opportunity to not wear glasses anymore?
100%. Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. And also in my so-called podcast, there are some people that are definitely older. I don't generally ask for ages, but you can tell we're advanced in the age range, and they're absolutely improving the eyesight. That elongation, that eyeball shortens the same way it elongates. That mechanism works till the day you die. It's not, when you're a baby, the eyeball's too short, right? So you can't see clearly up close, and it adjusts itself till it's the right size. And then there's this myth that the eyeball only changes shape until while you're in your puberty, but that thing keeps going on. And there's clinical studies that show in humans, they measure the axial length, and it changes in as little as an hour. You can observe change in the length of your eyeball.
Well, that's pretty good news for people. I'm going to pass that on to my parents and be like, hey, you can get rid of those glasses if you really want, you know. What is your thought on those, like the blue light glasses that you wear like in front of a screen that are supposed to reduce the eye strain? Do those help, or are they bad in the long run?
So lenses cost $2, right?
Sure.
And you want to get into that business, and you're like, well, a lot of people are doing this. What could we sell for more money?
Sure.
Right. That's where blue light lenses come in. There's no known, I've dug through clinical science studies trying to find any benefit for the blue light blocking lenses. And my personal conclusion, and this is not, I know a lot about myopia, blue light lenses, it's kind of peripheral, right? Like, I'm not the expert, but my take on that whole thing is, one, it doesn't really make a difference, because your problem is you're spending too much time in front of screens. Your problem isn't some tiny spectrum of the light. And yes, can affect your sleep. Yes, all kinds of things. But that problem isn't really the blue light. The problem is you're spending too much time in front of screens. It's like when McDonald's says we have salads now.
Yeah, no, I get
Stay in your lane, right?
Right? Yeah, it is, right? Like the Coke Zero, like low fat this. Like it's a way to keep selling you a thing and make you feel better about it, because it's not the thing that was a problem. It's only this little tiny thing in it. And look, we just took that out.
Yeah, we fixed it. We fixed it. Keep buying our stuff,
It's vitamin enriched white bread, like, yay.
No, I like that, man. And it almost goes into like the essentialism type of idea. It's like, hey, let's get rid of all this extra stuff. Like, realize what's the real problem. and I think that's a big, idea that, it's not genetics. It's not, an issue that you can't get rid of. Oh, yeah, how do you explain that to the kids that like maybe really young? I've seen some kids that maybe were only like 2 or 3 years old that were given some pretty thick glasses. How do you fix that? Being a parent of a child that was told that.
iPads are not babysitters. That's
Hmm.
the number one thing. There was a time where our grandparents or great grandparents gave their kids little bits of whiskey to put them to sleep. I hear those stories because
Yeah.
we didn't know, right? It seemed
Sure.
like, hey, we didn't know the negative effects, and we're like,
Numb the
hey, this
gums.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's worked really well.
I think Paul and I might have gotten some whiskey when we were little, like from our grandma, but but yeah.
It's the same. We're in this time period where we haven't realized fully the negative side effects. iPad kids is not an option. I have a kid, he's now 5. He was never allowed. He is not allowed to hold a phone. Not ever. Right? I've always said, if anybody gives the kids a phone, I will smash the phone and then good luck buying a new one. Not allowed. Simply not, because it's this distance, right?
Sure.
And now we're dealing with a developing eye. That axial change happens much more quickly in kids because that eye is actively still looking for that point, right? Like it was
Okay.
just too short and it's just been elongating. This distance for a kid is never appropriate. And kids have short little arms, right? Like,
Sure.
so their screen distance is just stupid close.
What would be age appropriate, in your eyes?
What do you mean?
Like as far as giving them a screen, like is there an age that it's more appropriate to be able to like, the
Yes.
eyes developed enough?
27.
27? Holy, I can't get through college.
No. My point is there's not, like for a kid, it's never appropriate for a kid.
Okay.
Like my kid can watch cartoons, but it's an iPad that is at the end of the bed. Actually, one of the first words that he learned, funnily enough, was scooch back, right? Like he didn't know how to speak yet. He didn't know anything yet. But you could say he was a little tiny thing still, and you could say scooch back, and he couldn't even walk. Like, he was just like pushing himself back because the distance to the screen is the number one thing, right? Like kids watching TV, right? Like not sitting straight in front of it is fine, right? As long as you get 3, 4, 5 meters distance, you're good. It's this that doesn't work, right? And if the terrible thing is if you combine this with glasses on a 2-year-old, right? Like you take him to the optometrist. Now the optometrist got a 2-year-old customer. Put glasses on the kid, and now since those eyes are going to get worse dramatically and very quickly.
Sure.
You have to get away from that.
Where do you see all this going with your research? Do you think it's going to catch on? I get there's a money aspect. I get there's a money grab, and I know it's a billion dollar business. But don't you think there's going to be more people like you that are going to look at this and go, wait a minute, I don't want glasses. I don't need glasses. And it's going to be a revolution on this?
Well, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. That's like
fair.
It's like the diet thing. If you think about something like keto, how long it took for that to get even into the place where there are people having a conversation about it. Like how long this food pyramid crap was going on while we already knew better. I mean, it's like 20 years where the research was already there and we're still headed in low fat territories. I think we're still pretty far away from change there. I don't know, right? Like maybe tomorrow some terrible video goes viral and the world is a different place. But I think
doubtful.
I think people love screens. People don't want to hear about it, right? Like parents love the fact that they can throw an iPad in front of their kid. The awareness of this isn't gonna spread dramatically quickly. I'm still the main guy. That's the scary part.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like I talked to Ivor Cummins, who's really into heart disease, and that's a conversation, right? And we're talking about how long that took to even become a conversation. and it's still not mainstream. Like people still don't know that you can get a heart calcification scan done at a hospital, right? Like it's still fringe, and that is decades ahead of where we're at, where I'm one clown on the internet claiming that this is not a genetic condition, you know, like, so I think we're still a ways away.
Well, Jake, where can our audience check you out and check out your content and find all your information on this?
So it's a website called endmyopia.org.
Okay.
Funny side story, I didn't even realize that nobody knows what myopia means, so not the best.
Yeah,
name
explain
for
it to
website.
us. Explain it to us now.
Short-sightedness.
Oh,
Short-sightedness. Yeah, it's myopia. And yeah, so some genius made the website where the name of it is a thing that nobody knows what it is. It's not until I started doing podcasts where people are like, what is myopia? And I'm like, oh no, this is all wrong.
Endbadeyesight.com. So got it.
Yeah,
that's your new website.
So much smarter.
So endmyopia.org.
Endmyopiaorg has everything. YouTube channel, we've got a fairly good sized forum now, Facebook group, steps. If you dig long and far enough, you'll find the steps.
Okay.
I always tell people at least a few weeks figuring it all out, not all day, every day, but just digging into, you want to understand kind of the backstory. I have an email guide that has no sales pitch attached to it that walks you through more of the details. And you spend a month or two and you got it all figured out. And from there, actually improving your eyesight is almost autopilot for a lot of people, as long as you're not a huge screen addict.
Yeah.
It's simple to do. It's actually, you were surprised and you're like, that's amazing that I recovered all my eyesight.
Yeah.
Once you got it figured out, it is shockingly simple, right? Wear weaker glasses, challenge your eyes, get away from the phone. Your eyesight just goes back because that mechanism always adjusts. So if you give it the right kind of stimulus, it'll just readjust back to where it should be. No big deal.
Sure. What would you say is probably the biggest thing that people can implement right now, besides getting, reducing your screen time? What's one of the biggest things that we should do right now that'll help our eyesight?
Less time in front of screen, number one. Number two is don't wear those distance glasses during close-up. Like that's really the big one. That is creating a stimulus that makes your eye longer.
Sure.
So wearing distance glass in close-up is a really not great idea. And then find either a friendly optometrist, which are out there to give you weaker glasses. Show up with coffee and donuts and just say,
bribe them.
Remind them of the headaches you get when you use those glasses when you're looking at your screen. I promise you won't drive with them. Or go online and spend $20 on a site like Zenny and buy yourself glasses there where nobody's asking a question.
Well, Jake, I'm excited to check it out and dig for those steps and find something I can do to improve my just beginning to wane eyesight. I've never had to wear glasses, but I feel it coming. And I know it's because I've been in front of the screen a lot over the last couple of years. And so I'm looking forward to checking that out. And we're going to put all your contact information down in the show notes so our viewers can check you out as well. So, Jake, thank you so much for coming on the show. I think it was an interesting topic, man. And I think a lot of people could benefit from that information and realizing that, we can improve our eyesight. I think that's a wonderful thing to know.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Jake. Well, Jake had a lot of information. Man, I'm excited. I wanted the steps. What were the steps, man? Like I wanted.
Tell me the steps.
I know you're saying that's how it went in his video. But I'm definitely curious to check it out. I've noticed myself. I've been having like some eye strain just today. My eyes hurt just from I've been on the computer all day long. I've been on my phone. I'm looking forward to shutting all that down and maybe doing some eye exercises or something, or just kind of relaxing my eyes. But what did you think about what he was sharing, man, and the content that you've seen?
It was very, very positive signs that age is not a big factor on poor vision, which is an awesome thing to think about, right? I mean, he said that somebody 90 years old has an opportunity to not wear glasses anymore. How awesome is just thinking about that alone?
Mm-hmm.
That somebody 90 years old can stop wearing glasses, and that person may have been wearing glasses their whole life, and all of a sudden they start doing everything to the T is what Jake told them to do, and now they're not wearing glasses. That's remarkable stuff. So I hope that he catches on more. I hope that more people get on his train, which obviously, everybody needs to do their due diligence, and that's fine. And he tells you to do your due diligence.
Yeah.
And try out alternatives. There's nothing wrong with that.
It is a tough thing, though, because it does make you think about, how, the pharmaceutical companies do try to shut down any alternative medicine because it's a whole money issue. So that seems like that may be a factor in it. But I'm definitely interested in checking it out and seeing what those tips are. I wish we had an opportunity to have him share, but I do get it that they're going to be a little bit different. Like maybe that someone that's already wearing glasses, as opposed to like if I were going to do it, obviously I don't have to go to the eye doctor to have them reduce my prescription, quote unquote, as he said. So there's probably a couple different steps, and then it's along the lines of, are you sticking with that? Are you reducing your screen time enough? Are you, staying far enough away from the screen when you are using it? Are you doing the exercises? So the results may vary, as as you see in a lot of commercials, right? So I get that. And, I like that he's upfront about it, because he doesn't want to say these are the results that you're going to get, because you never know what kind of work people are going to put in behind it. So, but I'd suggest, checking out, Jake's stuff and seeing if you can get your eyes better. So, so great guest. Glad he came on and shared that with us. So let's go ahead and wrap up the show with another segment of Ask Paul Anything. And I found a question that I felt, kind of matched the vibe for today's show. So this one comes from Seth in Nebraska. And Seth says, Paul, what's invisible but you wish you could see?
What's invisible that I wish I could see? Gosh. I guess we'll go with spirits. I wish I could see spirits. Maybe I don't. I don't know if no, maybe I don't. Actually, I take that back. I really don't. I don't know if I really do want to do that. I know that your friend Lisa can see that in a bit, and I think that would kind of freak me out if I'm seeing 30 people just like milling around that I can't see. I don't know.
Paul sees dead people.
Yeah, I don't know if that would be a good idea, but yeah, that was the first thing that came to my head. So I'll stick with that.
Gonna be the next Sixth Sense, and you're gonna be just talking to dead people walking around and going, well, there's Joe and there's so and so that's been gone for a while. So great answer, Paul. Great answer. Make sure to continue to send your questions in to actionsandlimits@gmail.com, and you can get your questions featured on the show for the wonderful answers that Paul loves to give us. Another great episode, man. Glad we could have Jake on the show. Man, yeah, another great week, bud.
For Justin Atherton, this is Paul Fortune. We'll see you next week.
All right. See you next Monday. Thank you for listening to the show. Don't miss an episode. Click and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on your favorite podcast platform, and find us on Instagram and Facebook under Actions and Limits to stay updated on all our upcoming content. Continue to email the show at actionsandlimits@gmail.com for our segment Ask Paul Anything. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.